Welcome back, everybody. Back again for the second part of Rpgibberish Extra, in which we're going to be talking, of course, we teased it, talking about our favorite games of 2011, of course, Jrpgs, and of course, talk about the upcoming games for 2012, because there is a huge set of fantastic JRPGs coming out. So, if you guys enjoyed the first extra part talking about the games we've been playing, definitely stick around for, of course, games we've been playing over the entire year, and those are the 2011 games. So, Greg, let us know which are some of your favorite RPGs of 2011.
Alrighty, so basically, just very quickly, some of the RPGs that I think stand out in 2011. And what's kind of sad about this is I haven't played a lot of new games in 2011. And in the last recording, I mentioned some of the games I've been playing, like Fate Extra and everything. And I don't want to talk about them again because it just sounds like I'm repeating myself. So basically, just very, very quickly, this shouldn't come as a surprise. I really liked Eastbook 1 and 2 Chronicles. I think the translation that XC did was fantastic. And even though I've played it before many, many times before, I even played the Chronicles version in Japanese. But it was all worth the while to play it again in English. And I really enjoyed myself. And if you haven't already got Eastbook 1 and 2, East Chronicles 1 and 2, I should say, definitely get it. It's definitely one of the best ways to get into the East series, and I do highly recommend it. One of the other games I really, really enjoyed and I really need to get back to is Final Fantasy IV, the complete collection. I did complete Final Fantasy IV again, and I did put in an hour of the interlude. I heard that's really short, so I can breeze through that, but I'm really looking forward to playing the After Years. Because I did play a bit of the After Years when it was released on the Wii, and I did enjoy what I played, so I'm really looking forward to getting back to it. But that's my very small list because in 2011, I played more retro games than I played any other year. I mean, I did have that big marathon of Shining Force 3, which is one of the biggest gaming marathon sessions I've ever had in my entire life. It rounded up to be like 120 to 130 hours, and that's probably the most memorable highlight of 2011. And other than that, I've been playing a lot of retro RPGs on the Super Nintendo, and a lot of PS2 backlog of PS2 games, and that's about it. So I still have to, well and truly into 2012, make an effort to buy more 2011 RPGs because I am in no position to do like a top 10 RPGs on my RPG Swagman channel because I've only got about 6 or 7 games I've bought in 2011 that's new. So I'm going to wait until next year before I do something like that.
All right. Yeah, it's pretty much the same for me. Like I said, the first 4 or 5 months of the years, I'd never even played any RPG, and I only got back into it, with Dragon Quest IX and Xenogears, and one other that we're going to talk about later on. But yeah, no spoilers, no spoilers. You gotta wait for the surprise. But yeah, like I said, once I got back into RPGs and we started doing Rpgibberish and talking about more, I played a lot of retro RPGs. In terms of progress, I finished so many retro games. Started so many new series: Star Ocean, Parasite Eve, finished the entire Kingdom Hearts. But one thing that is truly a huge revelation for me is, of course, Neon Falcon. And once again, no spoilers, but I did play a lot of the Xseed games. Like, I did finish Lunar 1, that was released 2009. But in terms of Falcon, we have Eastbooks 1 and 2 Chronicles, which was the first East game that I ever played. Absolutely blew me away. I absolutely loved it. And that was officially released in 2011. Of course, we have East Oath in Felghana and E7, which were released at the end of 2010, that I played this year as well, and I absolutely love those as well. I did want to try E6 Ark of Nephishtim, which was not published by Xseed but made by Konami, published by Konami. Didn't really get into it, so I stopped playing it after maybe 2 hours. Maybe I'll play it later on the PlayStation 2. I gotta track down a copy, but I absolutely love playing through East 1 to Oath in Frogana as well as 7. Big revelation. I really loved it. I got more profound love for action RPGs, and they have the perfect set of challenge, fantastic story, awesome soundtrack, and I urge everybody to check out East. Highly recommend it. But besides that, technically there are some RPGs released in 2011 which, yeah, they qualify under 2011 release. Uh, Officially, Europe got Shin Megami Tensei Persona 3 Portable, which makes it one of the best RPGs of 2011. But like I said, that's a technically, because even though I bought it this year for Ghostlight, I already played the American release last year. Uh, Same goes for last week. We saw Chrono Trigger released on iOS, which is also one of my favorite RPGs, and I bought it, but I haven't finished it yet. But so technically a 2011 release. But um, I've already talked in the last part on games I've been playing on my favorite RPGs of 2011. Persona 2 Innocent Sin was a fantastic ride, and Tales of the Abyss I'm currently playing, but I can pretty much guarantee that I'm going to be enjoying that, and even based on the 8 hours that I've put into it, fantastic. But my absolutely top 3 on RPGs of 2011, not spoiling the number 1 spot. On number 3 we have a pseudo RPG, and that is of course Catherine, made by Atlas. Even though it's more a puzzle game, it's of course made by the Persona team, the ones responsible for the Shin Megami Tensei games, and I absolutely love Catherine. It's still one of my favorite games overall, not only RPGs or that genre. It's a fantastic story. Gameplay can be really challenging, but the story is what makes it stand out. Very mature content, but just overall, to see Shin Megami Tensei kind of vision come back on a newest generation. This was their first entry on the PlayStation 3. I absolutely enjoyed it, and I can't wait to see what Atlas is going to be cranking out. For perhaps Persona 5 or maybe something else that I think of on consoles. So Catherine, really highly recommend it. I know Europe will see a copy and Australia will see a copy on 2012. But Catherine is region free, so you can still import it right now. Price should have dropped, and like I said, it's technically not an RPG, but it's the same team, so definitely give that a try. On number 2, Greg already mentioned it, of course, and that is Final Fantasy IV Complete Collection. He was already pretty, hyped up about it. Gave it a lot of praise, but I'm just going above and beyond and say that if not for one other game, Final Fantasy IV Complete Collection is, the best RPG released, in a very long time. I'd never have, Final Fantasy IV is already one of my favorite early Final Fantasy games. I finished it on the PlayStation 1, I finished it on the DS, and to see the original Final Fantasy IV Vision come back in the form of very high resolution 16-bit sprites is already fantastic. They streamlined pretty much everything on Final Fantasy IV alone, and it is a fantastic, superb release on its own. I would have been happy, if that would be the package, because I am kind of disappointed with the 3D conversions of Final Fantasy 3 and Final Fantasy 4. While it did have voice acting on Final Fantasy 4, it was not one of my favorite ports, and I just love that that 2D style a lot more. Final Fantasy 3 even is one of my least favorites, and I should still finish that one in 2D style. But just Final Fantasy alone, Final Fantasy 4 alone would be fantastic. But they added in the interlude, which is indeed not very long. You can get through it in maybe 3 or 4 hours. It is a lot of story, exposition, and maybe 2 or 3 dungeons with bosses, but you don't have to grind a lot. It's pretty short, but where my praise starts is on the absolutely gorgeous, fantastic The After Years. It is by far the most surprising RPG that I played except for the number one spot. It plays out pretty much like Dragon Quest IV. You have these chapters, and you get to know all the characters. There are recurring characters, there are new characters, like, well, no spoiler here, the son of Cecil. He's the prince now, and he's trying on his journey. And the story is just, it starts off really, a lot of kingdoms and stuff. Monsters are returning, and the second moon is returning. From there, over the course of all those chapters, each ranging within 3 to 5 hours each, it's just, fantastic. And that alone is great. But once you get to the final tale, the final part of, the after years, I just got gripped completely. Where, I just felt that this is by far one of the best Final Fantasy games that I've played in a long time. The tale is just a culmination of everything awesome in the Final Fantasy series. The first 6 parts. I don't want to give spoilers away, but you gotta play it to believe it. I just absolutely loved the way they added in all the great stuff on Final Fantasy IV, the after years, and together all the 3 games make it the definitive experience to play Final Fantasy IV, one of the largest games in the first 6. This shows the potential of sequelizing Final Fantasy, and I really hope that somewhere in the upcoming years they take the same shot at Final Fantasy VI, because Final Fantasy VI has been a very long time since I played and finished it on the PlayStation 1. It has another fantastic story to tell, and I can't wait to play that once again in this high resolution 2D style, and hopefully play it with some added content and perhaps even a full sequel. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. I hope it happens, but at least we still have the upcoming Final Fantasy Legends, a kind of similar, even though it can't have a number, it's kind of similar, high resolution 2D style chapterized story, which should come out on iOS and Android devices in 2012. So I'm just blown away by Final Fantasy IV Complete Collection. I just absolutely love playing through it all 35-40 hours. I just the surprise of the after years was just too big. I don't want to hype it up to anybody out there, but it's really solid, and it could have been Final Fantasy IV, just a number title. It really has that quality, and I highly recommend it, and it's definitely my second favorite game of the 2011. One thing I want to throw in at the end is, of course, the big reviewers all took a shot at Final Fantasy IV Complete Collection, and some of them were pretty positive, some of them were really negative. And if you read those reviews alone, you know that they have never played anywhere beyond, or even finished Final Fantasy IV and just booted up maybe the after years and interludes. So it's really disappointing to see that, if you got to review an RPG, and especially one that basically has 3 RPGs in them, then make sure to play at least all of them a subsequent amount. But like I said, I'm hyping it up way too much. Final Fantasy IV Complete Collection is a really great and fantastic surprise of an RPG, even though I'd already finished it 2 times. So
and good value for money too, because it costs, if you wanted to buy back in the day, you could only buy Final Fantasy IV on DS and then go get a Wii and download every chapter of the after years separately. It definitely works out to be much cheaper to buy the complete collection. So just wanted to add in that.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I picked up on WiiWare the first part, the Theodore's Tale, which I never really delved into, but this is a fantastic value for purchase. And believe it or not, I bought this game for €30, and it was worth every euro. But the European edition comes with some art cards and a special Cecil branded cleaning cloth. This game is selling for £10 on several UK stores, which is about $16, $17, €12. value for money. If you ever want to give a Christmas present, even though this probably too late for Christmas present, just give this Christmas present, a late Christmas present to somebody who enjoys JRPGs. Pick up that Final Fantasy IV Complete Collection for 12 euros. Can't believe it's so cheap. Excellent. That's just complete value for money. Yeah, like I said, superlatives for this game are just too high, so you can guess how much the number one, how awesome that game is. But no spoilers.
But you're gonna have to wait till the end of the podcast because we want to talk about that in very good length. But for now, Era and I are going to talk about what we're most excited for in 2012, and there's a lot of surprises, I got to say, and a lot of sequels and additions to series I'm very much in love with. So I will go first. First game I'm interested in, and I was tossing and turning about it, but ever since I found out about the story about it and the additional information that's just been announced these few couple of days, I got to say it's Kingdom Hearts 3D. I really like the premise. It's the Sora and Riku's going to take the Keyblade Mastery exam, and the worlds that are popping up, like the Three Musketeers, seem really, really cool. I definitely after seeing that want to give the game a shot. I'm really not looking forward to playing it on that atrocious add-on, but I still want to give the game a go. So I definitely know you're looking forward to it as well, Eric.
Yeah, I honestly about a half year ago, so many Kingdom Hearts spin-offs. I just never thought, Dream Drop Distance. Who cares? It's another Kingdom Hearts. But that completely changed, completely turned around. We've been playing both. Have been playing a lot of Kingdom Hearts games over the summer. In preparation of our episode, which turned out to be one of the best Rpgibberish episodes for sure. But yeah, Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance is one of my highest anticipated games on the 3DS and 2012. The story will be a continuation after Kingdom Hearts 2. I can't wait to see more on Sora and Riku taking indeed, the Keyblade, the Mark of Mastery exam. Really looking forward. I see a lot of tidbits being released, recurring characters from Birth by Sleep, which is great because Birth by Sleep characters, they existed 12 years in the timeline, which, those characters we had not seen during Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2. Really looking forward to that. Newest worlds, the Three Musketeers one is a really interesting one. If you look at Disney, that's not one that, pops up very easily. Tron Legacy was yesterday announced. Very interested in that as one as well. Overall, I believe the game is coming out March 2012. I don't know if that's an international release, at least in Japan. I don't know for sure. But Kingdom Hearts 3D is, one of my most anticipated titles for sure. Like I said, the 3DS, while it has improved so much so that I picked one up. I picked it up with Ocarina of Time, Super Mario 3D Land, and Tales of the Abyss. Games are, early next year should come out for the 3DS. Like I said, Kingdom Hearts 3D is one that I'm highly anticipating on. Square Enix will be releasing more stuff on the 3DS. We have, of course, Theater Rhythm Final Fantasy as well, coming out, I believe, early in Japan. But Kingdom Hearts 3D, I can't wait to look forward to. And once again, characters, not only Neku, but more characters from the world End With You are part of Kingdom Hearts 3D. And that, is fantastic alone to see their cameos and puts so much, hope in a sequel on the 3DS for the world End With You 2. I really look forward if that, gets released. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. All I can say is Kingdom Hearts 3D, I really want to play it. Looking forward to it in preparation also for the real Kingdom Hearts 3. Can't wait.
Next game that I'm really looking forward to, and just got announced that it is getting translated in English. Now, we talked about the demo of this game in an episode of Rpgibberish before, and that is Final Fantasy Type 0. I'm very happy that they've decided to translate it. I'm really looking forward to when it gets released. There is no official release date for it, but they have officially confirmed that it's going to be translated. And I got to say, it's one of the best games of the Final Fantasy franchise I have played in years. And I got to say that since like Final Fantasy X, it's one of the first Final Fantasy games I enjoyed just by playing the demo. So I'm really looking forward to getting the full edition, hopefully with some nice goodies, either from America or Europe. So, Arrow.
Oh yeah, of course. I'm part of this. You know, it's hopefully the swan song for the PlayStation Portable. I've played the demo. I really enjoyed it. I've After I played the demo, I explicitly did not take a look at anymore. I just skipped over all the press releases and images and stuff like that, so not to spoil myself for Type Zero. Um, I am really looking forward to it. Can't wait to check it out. It's very interesting to see, Final Fantasy going on full action RPG, Crisis Core style. But I really look forward to it because the demo was absolutely fantastic. Hopefully, it will be out somewhere in April or May, preferably in a nice looking box set as well that we're used to, at least from Square Enix Europe. So hopefully, April or May that would be the perfect time to release Type Zero. But that it gets a release, I never had a doubt in my mind that Type Zero would not get a release. So highly looking forward to playing that as well.
Okay, the next title I want to talk about can be very, very obscure because it's not unsure if this will ever get released outside of Japan, but it's actually it's a port of a game that sold really, really well last year, and I don't want to talk too much about it, but the game is actually Zero no Kiseki, and it's actually going to have a full voice version for the PS Vita. And one reason I'm really looking forward to playing is because, like Arrow, he's got a goal to collect all the Squaresoft games, and I've got a goal to kind of collect all the Falcom games that's ever been released, in English or in Japanese. So, and I'm hopefully that companies that on board with the Vita will kind of consider this version to perhaps be translated or not. I don't want to talk about it too much, but we might do it in a later episode. But I've spoiled myself a few bits of Zero no Kiseki, and I got to say, it looks absolutely fantastic. I actually own the strategy guide for it, and a lot of the characters look very, very nice, look interesting. Yeah, can't wait for it.
Oh yeah, Zero no Kiseki. Once I heard that they're going to be remaking it, from PSP to PS Vita, I immediately thought that we have a way more shot of playing this RPG than it would have been on a PlayStation Portable. There are still two more games kind of in the way, and that are second chapter and third chapter for Trails in the Sky. And after that, Zero no Kiseki basically takes place. One thing that I just put two and two together is that Exceed, who is, publishing all the Falcom games, has announced that they are going to be releasing a game for the PlayStation Vita. So they already have the license to publish PlayStation Vita games, so that might improve the chances to see more Falcom like Ys 4 and, like I said, Zero no Kiseki. The game, by the way, that they're going to be publishing is called Suomi Demon of the Arts. It's this really calligraphy type of style platformer, kind of like Cave's Ninja Jump. Interested to see how that game holds up on a PlayStation Vita, but I think that improves our chances to seeing Zero no Kiseki for sure. And everything Kiseki is awesome with me.
Yeah, same with me. But yeah, hopefully, good will hear good things. But I'm not getting my hopes up too much about it. Next up is a game that I know that a lot of people are anticipating next year, and it's very odd that Namco, of all people, are the ones that are helping the release. And of course, the beautiful fusion from Level 5 and Studio Ghibli, and of course that is Ni no Kuni for the PS3. It just got released in Japan, and I was very happy when they announced that it was coming, to US shores, and I'm definitely going to import it once it comes out.
Oh yeah, I've been a fan of Studio Ghibli for such a long time. I've talked about Ni no Kuni for a long time. Once that news was announced that we're seeing a international release, I don't care if it only gets released in North America. Europe is also on the list. So the only thing that's holding me back is, of course, Yay RPG Hell in the upcoming, quarter one of 2012, because there are so many wonderful JRPGs coming out at the start of 2012. Like I said, Kingdom Hearts 3D coming out in March, and Ni no Kuni is supposedly coming out in March as well. So that's going to take up a lot of time because I really want to invest a lot of time into Ni no Kuni. I don't want to hype myself up too much, but from what I've seen so far, I think I will definitely enjoy the game a lot. Such a big Studio Ghibli fan. Can't wait for it.
Besides being a fan of Level 5 and Studio Ghibli, I have a soft spot for really artistic, cel-shaded RPGs, and Ni no Kuni fits the bill very, very well, and I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on it. Alrighty, my next choice for one of the games I'm looking forward to is one of the most bizarre ideas ever. One of the most bizarre ideas ever for an RPG. And this goes out to anyone who is a big fan of anime and has watched a lot of different series. There is a RPG created by Namco, and it's called Heroes Fantasia. And what it's about is various characters from different anime series joined together to battle evil forces. And just to give a quick rundown, some of the series characters are from is like S. Cryed, My Hime, Darker Than Black. One of the odd choices is Sergeant Frog, but one of the two series that I'm a big fan of, and they're very prominent in Heroes Fantasia, is characters from Orphan and Slayers. And when I saw that, I got very excited to play it. The visuals is very, very stunning for a PSP game. It's very hard to play. It also uses cel-shaded visuals, but it just does it in a way that just looks really appealing, especially for a PSP game. And I'm really looking forward to seeing more information on the game. And as a nice bonus, is in Japan, when it gets released, it's got like this really nice special edition. So, Ero, have you heard about this game before?
Yeah, now that you talk about it, I remember the announcement back on Siliconera and those kind of websites, that cover a lot of JRPG from Japan. I kind of forgot about it. I really don't know if this game will ever get released in English, but it sounds like a really interesting crossover game. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry to cut you there, but I think it'll be one of the toughest games to ever get released outside Japan, because they would need licenses from all the different anime series, because it's not just one license. Like, you got some characters owned by Sunrise and owned by TV Tokyo and all this, and it probably would have been a lot of work just to get them licensed in Japan. It would be double that across the pond. So it'd be very interesting indeed. And of course, the second problem I foresee is anime fans are very hardcore about the series they love, especially when it comes to voice actors. And I can definitely see a problem in rounding all those voice actors to reprise their roles in the game. It's much more simpler to do that in Japan, because when anyone does a role in an anime, they usually carry that for the rest of their life and are very dedicated to that character, whereas in America they don't have that same mindset necessarily. I'm not saying that they don't, but it's just how I perceive it. So I reckon it'll have a much harder chance of getting translated. If it does, then that's awesome. But I'm definitely going to import it and give it a shot when it comes out in Japan.
Oh yeah, definitely give it a try. It's something though. You did mention all the anime shows, and I haven't really watched any of those anime shows. So I will have to wait and see, but I might have to check out some of those anime shows whenever I got the time.
If you don't have much time, I will say check out Orphan Season 1. Especially if you're an RPG fan, you will love it. You'd love it indeed, because I absolutely love Orphan. And if you like a bit of comedy, definitely check out Slayers.
Alright, I'm going to write those down. Check it out after the podcast. Interesting. Alright, what's next on the list?
Alrighty. This comes as no surprise to anyone that either watches my videos or listens to the podcast, but as the representative of the 20th anniversary of the Shining series, Sega is making a game called Shining Blade. And as you might have known if you watch my videos, is I was a part of a Shining Force SOS campaign to bring Sega and Camelot back together. Sadly, I do not think that yielded any results whatsoever. So Sega has taken it upon themselves to create their own game, which is Shining Blade. However, I was at first kind of pessimistic about it until they announced the details for the game and got me very excited. And Shining Force fans and Valkyria Chronicle fans should take note that Shining Blade will use a similar system that is used in Valkyria Chronicles. And I got to say that I'm really interested to see it. I've only seen a handful of screenshots, but I'm really looking forward to seeing how the game plays with the system, in a trailer. I just reckon the concept would be really good, where Valkyria Chronicles uses that system in sort of a fantasy-esque World War II setting with guns and tanks. It'd be very interesting to see it in a more medieval, magical setting, indeed. The character designs are gorgeous. I'm really looking forward to it. There's nothing else I can say.
All right. Yeah, once again, one of the titles that I had never heard anything before. Like I said, Shining Force series is still on my list to start play. Somewhere next year maybe. But I know that Shining series got a lot of spin-offs, but the fact that it's using the Valkyria Chronicles engine, that sounds really good. Valkyria Chronicles is still one of my favorite RPGs of this generation. Still gotta check out Part 2, but that sounds really interesting, and perhaps Sega gives it a try, because Sega is doing some weird stuff with no localizations recently, except for Yakuza. But who knows?
Speaking of Yakuza, that's actually on my list of best art. I still kind of count that as an RPG or an adventure game with heavy RPG elements. 4 was also released in 2011, so I just want to quickly slot that in there.
Yeah.
Definitely play it.
Oh yeah, the Yakuza series is awesome. I played a bit of Yakuza 4 as well. It's definitely a great one. I really gotta play some more Yakuza somewhere, next year. We'll see how it goes.
Alrighty.
All right.
But yeah, the next game, and me and Arrow, I agree with each other that this is probably one of the more prominent RPGs of 2012. Of course, it is a port/remake of one of the best RPGs on the PS2, and possibly one of the best games to be a gateway into the Shin Megami Tensei series. And of course, I'm referring to Persona 4 The Golden on PS Vita. And lately, I've had a hankering to just play Persona 4 again, but I'm going to wait until the Golden comes out, because I've just of all the tidbits they've been showing lately, like the extra content with like a new character, more social links, and more events throughout the year to make it a bit more memorable experience, even though the game itself on the PS2 is perfect. But I'm really, really looking forward to getting the Golden and spending another month to 2 months, being lost in the story of Persona 4 once again.
Oh yeah, it's one of my highest anticipated titles. I'm still on the fence whether or not I'm going to play it, because it is an 80-hour RPG, and with so much more content, we'll have to see how it goes. I really want to give it a try once again, because it's the game that got me into the SMT series. I love it. So I'm really going to check it out. And of course, some game that is technically, of course, no RPG is, of course, Persona 4 The Ultimate, the fighting game made by the creators of BlazBlue, starring not only Persona 4 but also Persona 3 characters.
I gotta say, when I saw the first batch of screenshots and artworks for the Persona 3 characters, I got really, really excited seeing Mitsuru and Akihiko again. Just seeing how they've changed just looks absolutely amazing, and it just had me frothing at the mouth, so to speak. And I can't wait till Ultimate Mayonaka Arena comes out as well. That's probably going to be one of the very first games in a very long time I will play online, because I'm not a big online gamer, but I will play that game online with our friends and members of the YouTube community.
Oh yeah, that's definitely nice. I'm kind of hoping to see Persona 1 and Persona 2 characters in it, but we'll have to wait and see. But I'm very excited for the entire Persona 4 blowout that will happen early next year.
Alrighty, moving on to the next game, and I've talked about this, and Aaron's talked about this in great detail, especially at the end of the Mistwalk episode. It is the second game of the Holy Trinity of the Wii RPGs, and that, of course, is The Last Story. As much as I like Xenoblade, I gotta admit, out of all the free games, being Xenoblade, Last Story, and Pandora's Tower, I've gotta admit, Last Story is the number one game of the three I'm looking forward to the most. I don't know, there's just something about it that draws me in to it. And for anyone who likes shorter RPGs, one of the good news is it's actually about only 30 hours long, but it is a very memorable experience for what I've seen, and for what I've heard and read. I'm really looking forward to The Last Story.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty much the same. I didn't know it was only 30 hours long, which honestly, you don't hear me complain about because time is of the essence recently. But really going to pick up The Last Story. Of course, it will be a day one purchase for me. JRPG hell, it's coming out at the end of February. No idea. I think I should. Yeah.
I just got to keep saying, keep referring to it as RPG hell, and all I can say to that is grab what you can and get the fuck out, so to speak. To use that as the best analogy, because yeah, it's always the thing, just how they always like to release RPGs together in one period. And especially if one of them's a very long game, you just want to concentrate on that one. So all I can say is, to everyone out there, don't stress too much about buying every RPG. Just go for the ones that you think you'd love the most. I think that's probably the best way to get get out of it.
Oh yeah, that's definitely true. But one thing, you know, RPGs nowadays, they don't get a lot of printings, and The Last Story is a game I really want to play, and I gotta pick it up, so I don't miss out on it. No idea if there's going to be a special edition or anything, but yeah, don't rush yourself. Don't get and play your games if you want them, but those games like Ni no Kuni, Last Story, I just really want to play them. I've been kind of thinking of offering all my new 2012 vacation days up so I can just play all those games, but that's not gonna happen. But Last Story really high on my list. Yes.
Alrighty, okay. Now this is where I come at a crossroads. I actually before I go into the episode, would comprise like a top 10 list, and in the second and first spot, it really is an uphill battle because I both view these as probably the number one game, or I should say games, that I'm definitely without a doubt going to buy. Whether it be single or special edition, of course, that is East 4, Celceta, and Suikoden, the Centennial Tapestry. And first up, East 4, I have said many times on podcasts, many different podcasts, and on my videos, it's one of my most highly anticipated games. Probably going to be one of the best remakes of an RPG ever made, from what I've seen. I don't want to hype myself too up. I just have a really good feeling about the game, and it is probably the number one prominent reason for me to buy a Vita. I don't want to take this episode to another. I just want to talk about East 4 bit, so I'll just quickly give it over to Aero.
Yeah.
Anything new to add you haven't said before?
No, not really. Like I said, I've played a lot of fantastic East games this year. I can't wait to check it out. It's definitely one of the highest anticipated titles on the PlayStation Vita. I just hope Xseed releases it in 2012.
Alrighty, yeah, Xseed. I mean, yeah, if there's one, they're unsure about releasing more Falcon games. This is the number one Falcon game they have to consider releasing because it's one of the better East stories, and I say that 100%, guarantee. It is one of the better stories of the series. So hopefully they translate and we'll see it. But now to my number one most RPG, which I just mentioned, is Suikoden on the PSP. I've been seeing more details on that. From what Konami's been doing lately, they kind of want to make it more faithful to the series because it seems that when it was first announced that I kind of felt they want to push it away from the other series, but recently they've been doing some promotions where they want to keep the memory of the old series alive. Like recently on Silicon Era, Konami posted they posted an article about how Konami wants to have all these wallpapers of the different Suikoden games, and it's funny how they matched them all together. And the new game, how it kind of resembles the other games and the cast of characters. So it's kind of a good way to reassure fans, but it's just a little bit of fan service. I'm not going to look into it too much, but I'm really looking forward to seeing more information on the game. But Suikoden's my favorite series. It's a no-brainer that it would be my number one most desired RPG of 2012. I just think the concept of a story over 100 years sounds really awesome. I just really hope that they don't take out the war battles. I hope they keep them in, because that's something that makes Suikoden in my eyes. But I know that in February, when it gets released, February the 9th in Japan, it's going to come with a ridiculous special edition where you can pay a little bit extra and get an encyclopedia. I don't know what's going to happen in the next year, but hopefully I'll have the money enough to get it, and it'll be one of the nicest pieces for my RPG collection.
Oh yeah, Suikoden for the PSP. This is one of the times where I'm really disappointed that I don't know or understand how to read Japanese. I really do not think that Konami is going to release this game on the PSP. In outside of Japan, but I am really interested in it. But my love for Suikoden, it's still a love in the past somehow. I still have not played any other Suikoden game after Suikoden 1 and 2. And it's definitely a goal of mine in 2012 to at least play Suikoden 3 or any of the other Suikoden games, because I gotta somehow rekindle that love. And with Tire Cries and Tactics and now this one, a lot of spin-offs kind of, and not always hyped to get this one released. I know we're both big Suikoden fans, but I somehow I can't hype myself all the way up, and then get disappointment that I will never be able to understand this game to the fullest. But yeah, it's still Suikoden, and I really hope that this series continues on to releasing great iterations in the series. But I really got to sit down and play some Suikoden 3 sometime next year.
Yeah, I'm hoping to play Suikoden 3 next year as well. I mean, I own all the manga volumes where it tells the entire story, which is really good, but I can't wait to actually play the game. It's actually funny, in the 2 months, I actually played the Japanese version for the first time, so technically I played a bit of the game, even though I never understood it, and I think it looks stunning for a 2002 PS2 RPG. So I'm really looking forward to playing my US copy sometime in 2012. But I don't want to hype things too much, but I just want to throw it out there that I think I would be perfectly safe to say that Konami probably won't release it. However, they were one of the companies in 2011 that actually had growth in stocks and sales than any other game developer. And I can see that they're spending all their money on new series and new IPs. So I don't know if they would have any money left over to take a risk on releasing Suikoden, especially since it's never been a commercial success. I mean, our glorious listeners, Suikoden is a fantastic series, but is a very niche audience. Not many people besides ourselves have played it, and hopefully one day we rectify that, because we really stress to anyone that has access to buy Suikoden 1 and 2 at least to go out and play them. Suikoden 2, in my doubt, is the greatest story ever told. It is. It's the greatest story ever told. And you ever get the chance to, play it. There's got to be more people out there that got to play Suikoden and get it more well known.
Definitely. They're amongst my favorite RPGs, and I highly recommend checking them out. And hopefully we'll see Suikoden Centennial Tapestry in English. I really hope so.
So that's it for the quick list I had. Aero, do you have anything to add?
Let's see. Yes, there's of course. You are. I know you are not a big fan of at least one of them. But let's see. I already mentioned Shin Megami Tensei Devil Survivor 2, a turn-based hybrid strategy RPG in the Shin Megami Tensei series is getting a English release early next year, I believe February as well. So far North America only, but once again the DS is region free, so I'm definitely going to check it out, and because I really enjoyed the first Devil Survivor. And I'm also kind of expecting this game to be pretty rare pretty quickly because it's one of the latest DS releases. Let's see. Um, I heard a lot of great things on Vanillaware. Vanillaware will be releasing Dragon's Crown, a four-player co-op action RPG on the PlayStation Vita. Looks great. I hope it plays great as well. I'm definitely going to checking that out. So that's Dragon's Crown. And then there's also the localization of Vanillaware's Grand Knight's History. And Grand Knight's History is a turn-based RPG set around these three empires fighting amongst each other. Once again, a PSP title. It's going to be released by Xseed as well as Rising Star Games in Europe. And that's definitely one you got to keep your eyes on if you're looking for a niche RPG on the handhelds. Greg, you knew about Grand Knight's History?
Yes, of course. It's been released by the good friends at Xseed, and I can definitely say that they're taking a break from releasing Falcom games. And I can definitely say if you want to keep promoting Falcom games and just the company, I just think it's take a chance. I'm not saying you should blindly buy games just because they're distributed by Xseed, but Xseed's been picking some unusual choices of late. And I know Vanillaware has an audience, so I reckon they've struck gold with Grand Knight's History because it looks like a very stunning game and definitely one I'll definitely give a try in 2012. Definitely one of the games I really want to squeeze in there, and I know people will probably crucify us if we don't mention it. And we have been talking about Tales games quite an awful lot in the past two recordings, and of course we got to mention Tales of Grace's F, which recently just got an official release date of the 13th of March, I believe. Definitely one of the games I want to pick up because it looks more one of the more desirable Tales games. I've already seen a little bit, and not to spoil anything, but it definitely has a storyline where the characters do age, where it has two different time periods. And I really like games like that, so definitely looking forward to Tales of Grace's F.
Oh yeah, you were kind of getting ahead of me. Those are one of the games that I still wanted to mention, of course. Tales of Grace's F, March release for North America, which once again would have made those months even more unbearable because, you know, I play more than JRPGs, and we also have things like SSX, Bioshock Infinite, Mass Effect 3. That's insane. So I am really happy that Tales of Grace's F has been delayed until summer of 2012 for Europe and Australia. This does not mean that you cannot pick up a copy if you really want it. You know, North America, PlayStation 3 games are region free, but the reason they delayed it is because they want to add in a French and German translation as well, which I'm not going to use, but I'm sure it will make life a hell of a lot easier for a lot of French and German gamers. So I welcome this because the summer months are usually pretty slow. I still have Tales of the Abyss to finish, as well as play through Tales of Symphonia, one of the most loved Tales games. So I'll definitely be picking up Tales of Grace's F once it gets released in the summer of 2012. Let's see. I have two more games to mention. One you might have missed out on, but there is also Fire Emblem for the 3DS.
Yeah, damn, I did. Totally went over my head. I'm guessing they don't because they have no official information lately. That's been off my radar as of late. But now that's definitely on the list, you know. But yeah, I'm hoping Nintendo will release more information because it has gone off the radar since TGS. So hopefully more information on that. But before I get hyped up about any more 3DS RPGs, I gotta have a 3DS, and then I can get to that mindset of looking forward to 3DS games.
Oh yeah, definitely. In terms of 3DS, I have been not been checking out all the news, but we have of course Bravery Default, the sort of pseudo sequel to Final Fantasy: The Four Heroes of Light. very interesting in playing that as well. And like I mentioned before, Theater Rhythm Final Fantasy, it is a rhythm game, but I'm kind of interested in checking out. So Square Enix is really well put on the map, at least for the 3DS for next year. The final game that I want to talk about is also my highest anticipated game for 2012 at this moment, and that is of course Final Fantasy 13-2. It has been released today or yesterday in Japan. Um, One thing that really surprised me, and I'm really happy that it did, is Famitsu, one of the most well acclaimed Japanese gaming magazines and reviewers, gave Final Fantasy 13-2 the perfect score of 40 out of 40, which doesn't happen all that often. This is only probably the 11th or 12th game to receive a perfect score, and I know that at least Final Fantasy 10 and I believe Final Fantasy 12 got a perfect score. But to see this for 13-2 really made a lot of expectations on it. I've explicitly been, out of the loop on screenshots and updates to not see any spoilers. I've put in my pre-order in 3 different stores for the Crystal Edition, which has been selling out really rapidly. Can't wait to play it. It will be out early February. I am indeed going to be taking off a few days off work. Probably Thursday, Wednesday, Friday. To have an extra long weekend and to invest a lot of time in 13-2. I'm really, really looking forward to it. Final Fantasy is my favorite franchise series of them all. I can't wait to play it. It's I love 13, and I hope that I will love 13-2 as well.
It's funny. I was wondering how many people that would be listening up to this point would be screaming why we haven't mentioned that yet, because it's definitely number one on a lot of people's lists. And of course, they all know me. It will definitely take a back seat. It's very nice that Famitsu gave it a very high score. I'm looking forward to seeing why that is, whether they've made some improvements that will please more hardcore JRPG fans. I've been hearing down the mill there's a lot of DLC content. I don't know if we'll ever see that across the pond. Maybe we will, because it's Final Fantasy. It probably has a better shot. But yeah, I'm really surprised that it's gotten that acclaim, and we'll see what happens when it's released across the pond to Europe and the US.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, you know, not being excited for a numbered Final Fantasy game for me is not done. Unless I end up in a hospital and be in a coma for a couple of years. But I'm always excited for a Final Fantasy release, even if it's Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, Rings of Fate 2. Oh no, that's not true. That's no. I would not be excited for Crystal Chronicles, but 13-2. It's there's been so much talk on 13, and a lot of people hate or love it. I just really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to play a sequel on it. But yeah, I think that is about it, except for one game.
Well, actually, no. I'm going to
Oh.
extend it by a little bit. Just talk about free. I come out of left field. Anyway, just quickly, I'm not going to go into it too much. Just some other games that I've got my eye on that I don't want to talk about too much, like Atelier Maruru, which kind of rounds off the Arlen trilogy, is getting a earlier release than usual, which is also really cool. Just thought I mentioned that. One of the other games I'm really looking forward to is Black Rock Shooter, which is another Image Epoch game. It's a action RPG with shooting elements, more cinematic sort of style. Kind of reminds me of Kingdom Hearts a tiny bit. I don't know if that's not justified, but it looks interesting indeed. And lastly, probably not a game I'm looking forward to gameplay-wise, but it will have Falcom-related content into, and that is Neptunia the Mark II. Neptunia was probably one of my more disliked games of 2011, but since it has Falcom material in the second game, I probably will buy it because I'm a dirty Falcom fanboy. That's how I roll.
I understand. It's Yeah, you indeed mentioned three games published by NIS America, and earlier this year I made the explicit choice to drop everything of NIS America on my radar. It's just, I'm a fan of so many big games. Uh, Monachemia was a great one, but after that I just never had time or interest in any of the other games, even though I still own a lot of them. So yeah, those dropped off my radar. But if you're a big fan, of course, of the NIS America, brand and those type of games, those are definitely some of the better ones that you could pick up, next year. And I'm sure
One
there will be
thing
many more.
One thing I want to ensure is the days of NIS America releasing Gus games might be finally over, because one of the most oddest shock stories of 2011 is that Koei of all people merged with Gus. Or I should say Gus merged with Tecmo Koei. So it's very interesting to see that. However, it's not all that far-fetched, because for anyone who's not in the PAL regions, Koei actually was the ones that actually released the Atelier games to the PAL markets. So it's very interesting that in Japan they've gone full force and have been absorbed into Tecmo Koei. And one of the jokes that have been going around is that you'll probably see an Atelier character in the next Warriors game. You know, with what they've been doing with Musa Orochi Free and just all these different characters from different Koei games, I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. But at least Koei now has a sort of a stable RPG partner to be a part of the market, so to speak. So it'd be very interesting to see if that happens beyond the pond, and we will see all the Atelier games being released by Koei instead of NIS America.
Okay, that's didn't know about this story. Interesting. Yeah, definitely interesting. Uh, though there is one more title, I think it's safe to say that this title is the most anticipated title. I don't want to say combined with all the other titles that I've mentioned, because there are some really, really awesome ones. And it also ties into our favorite RPG of 2011, and that
And
is,
we both agree on this, both Arrow and I, that
yeah,
it is the best RPG of 2011. And of course, that is Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky. One of the best RPGs to ever be, made on this planet. I gotta say, ever since Suikoden 2, I've been looking for that experience with a rich, engrossing story with such memorable characters, and I gotta say, does definitely comes close. Where to begin? I got to thank my good friend Taylor Murugari 553. I've known about Trails in the Sky for a very long time, but he told me things that made much more interesting. And when Xseed had that limited edition, I thought, well, I'm definitely going to give it a shot. And I just got to say, I'm glad that it happened. I got to experience it, you know. So you're going to probably ask, why is it the best game? Well, the story is just it's just very well written. The world of Trails in the Sky is well constructed, and the characters are so likable. And as I've touched upon before, is a lot of RPGs nowadays just have so much drama in them and are not light-hearted moments or human moments. Whereas in Trails in the Sky, there's a lot of friendly banter between characters, and there's a lot of laughs to be had. It's one of the more funny JRPGs I've ever encountered, and you grow to like the characters a lot more than your average JRPG. And basically, when something dramatic does happen, it has more of an impact. And I got to say, there's some twists and turns that you will guess, but towards the end, I'm not going to spoil it. But my God, is it one of the greatest cliffhangers ever in a video game? It just makes you want to get the second game, which I did. I imported the second game so I could just see what happens afterwards. Because it just had such an impact on me. So basically, that's my opinion on the story and characters. Gameplay wise, it looks simplistic at first, but it can be very engrossing. Whether it be, cooking or the augment system or the different skills in combat, and of course the SP attacks, which I really loved. And I like the fact that you can interrupt the flow of battle to basically use them at any point. It added a lot of strategy and depth to what can be first looked at as a simple system, but it is quite in depth, and I really enjoyed my time. And of course, lastly, the music. It's a Falcom game. It's a given that would be a fantastic soundtrack. But unlike Issa's sort of rocking out concert-esque, masterpieces, it's more laid back. You can sort of sink into playing the game on a bed or a couch and listen to all the soothing sounds of Trails of the Sky, no matter which part of the world you're at. So yeah, and it's definitely one of the best coming-of-age tales between Estelle and Joshua. I won't spoil what happens between the two, but it's a really good journey, between both of them. So, and I can definitely say this, Exceed, I know you've been unsure whether to release the second chapter. I can say this now, that even though I'm looking forward to East 4 and Suikoden and PSP, if you confirm second chapter is definitely going to get a release, that will be my most decided game, not just of 2012, but of all time. So, Arrow, what you got to say?
Yeah, and it's funny. When you're talking about it, I'm trying to look back at March, April. I was out of playing RPGs for maybe 8 or 9 months. That did not mean that I was still buying them. I just never had the time to play them. I was at that time, I wasn't really playing a lot of games. I was finishing up on some other genres. And I remember you taking the trip to Distant Worlds, and you were, dropped some messages that, this was even before we had the podcast and we were talking on Skype, and you're saying you were really enjoying Legend of Hero Trails in the Sky. So I checked it out, and of course I saw it was, once again, Exceed, and at that time, Exceed for me was unknown. It was only, that company that, is pretty similar to Working Designs for, they also had Lunar. And now they were releasing these games from a company that I'd never known, Ease, that I'd maybe heard from, Happy Console Gamer videos and from your videos, and never played any of them. And one day I decided, Trails in the Sky, turn-based RPG, I'm going to give it a try. So I ordered them. I just ordered all the box sets from Exceed, and specifically Trails in the Sky, and I just said, I'm going to play it. So I dusted off my PSP somewhere that I hadn't played, in maybe a year or so, since Persona 3 Portable. Started playing it on a train ride every day to work. I just, got gripped by it. It just, it clicked for me. Everything, fell into place. The opening of the game was fantastic. I loved the storyline, the characters, the story progression, character development and stuff is absolutely fantastic. The soundtrack, and just playing through the game, it was just really, really, really enjoyable. Just the game experience on its own, back in March, I believe I played, a slew of fantastic DS titles like 999, Last Window, Ghost Trick, already 3 stellar titles, and that, put me in a really great gaming mood. And then I, started playing Trails in the Sky, and I, started playing it, and I was just completely blown away by it. Everything, there was just pretty much nothing bad to say, and like you mentioned earlier, it rekindled some of that love that I had when I was younger and I started playing, Final Fantasy and Suikoden, and most notably Suikoden. And it just, it just completely, everything, all those pieces fell together, absolutely loved it, and play through it. I loved doing all the side quests, to get as many bracer points as possible and rank up, in the bracer guild, and get more stuff, for equipment and stuff like that. And just that journey, I think it took me about 38 to 45 hours, somewhere in between. I just never had any downtime. I just absolutely loved playing it. I started playing it more. Started playing it, Uh, Even though I was outside of the train, at work, I just would continue on for maybe 2 hours at that time. And I was playing it, at the end of April, early May, and that was about the time that a lot of stuff in my personal life, went way better. I just bought my new house, and I remember, this house was, still being built up, and then Trails of the Sky was the game to go to, to kind of relax. And that entire experience just, made me fell in love with the game. And then all of a sudden, they throw in indeed one of the all-time best ever cliffhangers that I've ever seen in a game before. Make me so hyped up, and I just want the courage to end your game on a cliffhanger like that, knowing full well that at that time it would take a year to be released a sequel in Japan, and perhaps even knowing full well that a couple of years later, there are so many people in anticipation of the second chapter. It's just absolutely ridiculous. I just love playing through the game. I have to be honest and say that I, like with all other games, I never really have an urge to replay it. But if there is any game that I want to replay, it would be, Trails in the Sky, or Persona 4. Those are, some of the most loved RPGs that I played, that I would, put on the top of my let's replay them list instead of play a different RPG. What else is there to say? In the upcoming months after I finished it, I talked to many people, who also fell in love with Trails in the Sky. Ghostlight releasing it and seeing a lot of great, sales coming their way. And then, all that build up, still no official release of second chapter. I found myself doing a couple of things, to keep that Trails in the Sky spirit alive. I found myself at work listening to the soundtrack when I'm just doing my work, listening to the soundtrack of Trails in the Sky more often than I should, which is absolutely fantastic. I find myself really digging into the internet, just going to Xseed's forum and see if they released any tidbit on progress. Like I said, we had a couple of interviews with not only Xseed but also, Falcon President, saying they're struggling, to release the 2 UMD disc, or releasing it as a DLC title. But then yeah, that never happened in Japan, at least. That the DLC title, but then they have to reprogram a big chunk of it to make it work as one title alone. Um, and then the you're being, at least a lot of people are afraid, because we have the PlayStation Vita coming out, PSP slowly but surely, getting at the end of its life cycle, that this game would be not released. And uh, I don't want to say anything on stuff that will happen in the future, but it can either go very good or it can go really bad, because I honestly believe that as much of a fan as I am of Final Fantasy, I know that I will be able to play that game, but the anxiety of the second chapter, that that really want to play that game and experience the next part of the story. Uh, Not as much for me to go and learn full Japanese, so then I will be able to enjoy it, because that would take years. But to be able to enjoy second chapter in English, have that release in my hands, play it on my PSP, that is one of the most anticipated gaming feelings, that experience that I want to experience. And I really, once I wake up someday and read the news on Silicon Era that it has been confirmed for, say, April or May or June or perhaps even December of 2012, I would jump in joy. I would seriously go insane to know that that will be the day that I can finally play second chapter. I've never really had experience that a game is coming out a specific date and then it gets delayed later on, like Metal Gear Solid HD Collection now, but it's not too much of a hyped up game that I can wait for that. But second chapter, I would be really anticipating, and it's starting raining over here, or I don't know, perhaps something else, snowing even. But Trails in
Maybe
the
Mother Nature is touched by our love for Trails in the Sky.
I hope so. That could definitely be the case. But yeah, like I said, Trails in the Sky is it's more than a game for me. It's an experience. It's the go-to game, to kind of forget all the struggle and hard work that I had to put in about that time. It's also the game, once I finally had my house, that transition was the game, finally, it paid off, and it rekindled nostalgic feelings for me. And throughout the entire 2011, I keep thinking on which experience were the best. And while I loved Catherine and a bunch of other games, Trails in the Sky and 999 are for me my favorite experiences of 2011. And after that, I played a lot of East games, and all I can say is I just want to play second chapter, third chapter, and see this story come to a close. But even if I'd never played second chapter in my life, I would still have that experience of Trails in the Sky. Absolutely, blew me away, and it will still always be one of my favorite RPGs. For all time. It just at that time playing no RPGs for maybe 9 months or so, kind of losing that feeling, and then be blown away and get drawn back into it by Trails in the Sky, together with another one of my favorites, Xenogears, which I was playing uh, besides each other. Fantastic, fantastic experience. I've been talking maybe for 10 minutes now, but that's honestly how I feel. Um, I encourage everybody to pick up a copy of Trails in the Sky on the PSP. It is absolutely fantastic. You will not only reward yourself for a fantastic experience, but you will support all the people who have not only been working hard to creating it, but also been publishing it. And by buying a copy, you would heighten the chances of a second chapter release. And all I can say is I bought a copy of Neon Falcom. I still have to order a copy from Ghostlight, but once second chapter gets released, I'll make sure to buy 2 copies and just give 1 copy away for free on my channel and support XC that way. That's definitely something that I will be doing for sure.
Basically, just to add a few, I'm with Arrow with listening to music outside of playing the game. One of my favorite tracks of the entire series is Silver Will, and it plays during a certain character's battles, and it has to be, without a doubt, one of the greatest pieces of game music ever. I make it a daily ritual to listen to it. And there's about 4 different versions, with a new version being the anime opening. The thing about Trails in the Sky, or the Japanese name is Sora no Koseki, is the Koseki series is entering a momentous period in the series' life, where they just have an anime series released in Japan on DVD and Blu-ray based on the events of second chapter. The latest in the Koseki series, which of course is Zero and Ao no Koseki, have gotten awards from PlayStation for being one of the best-selling games in Japan. I'm very happy for Neon Falcom. I wish nothing but success for the series. Hopefully we'll get more Koseki games in English in the future. We just got to spread the word and get more people to play the game. As Arrow has said, whether it be XC's release or Ghostlight's release, go out and buy the game. It is one of the best RPG experiences you'll ever have in this lifetime. And before we talk about some more, I think we're going to end the episode on that. And Arrow, do you have any final words?
No, not really. It's been great to talk about RPGs, and talking about Trails in the Sky. It's always great, and I have to be honest and say that I did record a review, but I've never released it on my channel. But I don't think I will, because I can just use this audio. It's this is the first time I really sat down and talked about my feelings for Trails in the Sky, not having to explain the whole system of the game, but I think it's safe to say that Trails in the Sky is indeed one of my favorite games of 2011, and highly, highly recommend it. And the episode itself has been great, because there's a lot of great stuff upcoming for 2012, for sure.
Alrighty, and nothing else to add. All I can say to all our faithful RPG fans is have a Merry Christmas and have a fantastic New Year. We'll be back in 2012.
Welcome back, everybody. Back again for the second part of Rpgibberish Extra, in which we're going to be talking, of course, we teased it, talking about our favorite games of 2011, of course, Jrpgs, and of course, talk about the upcoming games for 2012, because there is a huge set of fantastic Jrpgs coming out. So, if you guys enjoyed the first extra part talking about the games we've been playing, definitely stick around for, of course, games we've been playing over the entire year, and those are the 2011 games. So, Greg, let us know which are some of your favorite RPGs of 2011.
Alrighty, so basically, just very quickly, some of the RPGs that I think stand out in 2011. And what's kind of sad about this is I haven't played a lot of new games in 2011. And in the last recording, I mentioned some of the games I've been playing, like Fate Extra and everything. And I don't want to talk about them again because it just sounds like I'm repeating myself. So basically, just very, very quickly, this shouldn't come as a surprise. I really liked Eastbook 1 and 2 Chronicles. I think the translation that XC did was fantastic. And even though I've played it before many, many times before, I even played the Chronicles version in Japanese. But it was all worth the while to play it again in English. And I really enjoyed myself. And if you haven't already got Eastbook 1 and 2, East Chronicles 1 and 2, I should say, definitely get it. It's definitely one of the best ways to get into the East series, and I do highly recommend it. One of the other games I really, really enjoyed and I really need to get back to is Final Fantasy IV, the complete collection. I did complete Final Fantasy IV again, and I did put in an hour of the interlude. I heard that's really short, so I can breeze through that, but I'm really looking forward to playing the After Years. Because I did play a bit of the After Years when
Long time. I'd never have, Final Fantasy IV is already one of my favorite early Final Fantasy games. I finished it on the PlayStation 1, I finished it on the DS, and to see the original Final Fantasy IV Vision come back in the form of, very high resolution 16-bit sprites is already fantastic. They streamlined pretty much everything on Final Fantasy IV alone, and it is a fantastic, superb release on its own. I would have been happy, if that would be the package, because I am kind of disappointed with the 3D conversions of Final Fantasy III and Final Fantasy IV. While I did have voice acting on Final Fantasy IV, it was not one of my favorite ports, and I just love that that 2D style a lot more. Final Fantasy III even is one of my least favorites, and I should still finish that one in 2D style. But just Final Fantasy alone, Final Fantasy IV alone would be fantastic. But they added in the interlude, which is indeed not very long. You can get through it in maybe 3 or 4 hours. It is a lot of story, exposition, and maybe 2 or 3 dungeons with bosses, but you don't have to grind a lot. It's pretty short, but where my praise starts is on the absolutely gorgeous, fantastic The After Years. It is by far the most surprising RPG that I played, except for the #1 spot. It plays out pretty much like Dragon Quest IV. You have these chapters, and you get to know all the characters. There are recurring characters, there are new characters, like, well, no spoiler here, the son of Cecil. He's the prince now, and he's trying on his journey. And the story is just, it's Persona 2 Innocent Sin was a fantastic ride, and Tales of the Abyss I'm currently playing, but I can pretty much guarantee that I'm going to be enjoying that, and even based on the 8 hours that I've put into it, fantastic. But my absolutely top 3 on RPGs of 2011, not spoiling the #1 spot. On number 3 we have a pseudo RPG, and that is of course Catherine, made by Atlas. Even though it's more a puzzle game, it's of course made by the Persona team, the ones responsible for the Shin Megami Tensei games. And I absolutely love Catherine. It's still one of my favorite games overall. Not only RPGs or that genre. It's a fantastic story. Gameplay can be really challenging, but the story is what makes it stand out. Very mature content, but just overall, to see Shin Megami Tensei kind of vision come back on a newest generation. This was their first entry on the PlayStation 3. I absolutely enjoyed it, and I can't wait to see what Atlas is going to be cranking out. For perhaps Persona 5 or maybe something else that I think of on consoles. So Catherine, really highly recommend it. I know Europe will see a copy and Australia will see a copy on 2012, but Catherine is region free, so you can still import it right now. Price should have dropped, and like I said, it's technically not an RPG, but it's the same team, so definitely give that a try. On number two, Greg already mentioned it, of course, and that is Final Fantasy IV Complete Collection. He was already pretty, hyped up about it. Gave it a lot of praise, but I'm just going above and beyond and say that if not for one other game, Final Fantasy IV Complete Collection is, the best RPG released, in a very.
It was released on the Wii, and I did enjoy what I played, so I'm really looking forward to getting back to it. But that's my very small list because in 2011, I played more retro games than I played any other year. I mean, I did have that big marathon of Shining Force 3, which is one of the biggest gaming marathon sessions I've ever had in my entire life. It rounded up to be like 120 to 130 hours, and that's probably the most memorable highlight of 2011. And other than that, I've been playing a lot of retro RPGs on the Super Nintendo, and a lot of backlog of PS2 games, and that's about it. So I still have to, well and truly into 2012, make an effort to buy more 2011 RPGs, because I am in no position to do like a top 10 RPGs on my RPG Swagman channel, because I've only got about 6 or 7 games I've bought in 2011 that's new. So I'm going to wait until next year before I do something like that.
All right. Yeah, it's pretty much the same for me. Like I said, the first 4 or 5 months of the years, I'd never even played any RPG, and I only got back into it, with Dragon Quest IX and Xenogears, and one other that we're going to talk about later on. But yeah, no spoilers, no spoilers. You gotta wait for the surprise. But yeah, like I said, once I got back into RPGs and we started doing Rpgibberish and talking about more, I played a lot of retro RPGs. In terms of progress, I finished so many retro games. Started so many new series: Star Ocean, Parasite Eve, finished the entire Kingdom Hearts. But one thing that is truly a huge revelation for me is, of course, Neon Falcom. And once again, no spoilers, but I did play a lot of the Xseed games. Like, I did finish Lunar 1, that was released 2009. But in terms of Falcom, we have East Books 1 and 2 Chronicles, which was the first East game that I ever played. Absolutely blew me away. I absolutely loved it. And that was officially released in 2011. Of course, we have Ys Oath in Felghana and E7, which were released at the end of 2010, that I played this year as well, and I absolutely love those as well. I did want to try Ys 6 Ark of Nepishtim, which was not published by Xseed but made by Konami, published by Konami. Didn't really get into it, so I stopped playing it after maybe 2 hours. Maybe I'll play it later on the PlayStation 2. I gotta track down a copy, but I absolutely love playing through Ys 1 to Oath in Felghana as well as 7. Big revelation. I really loved it. They got more profound love for action RPGs, and they have the perfect set of challenge, fantastic story, awesome soundtrack, and I urge everybody to check out Ys. Highly recommend it. But besides that, technically there are some RPGs released in 2011 which, they qualify under 2011 release. Uh, Officially, Europe got Shin Megami Tensei Persona 3 Portable, which makes it one of the best RPGs of 2011. But like I said, that's a technically because even though I bought it this year for Ghostlight, I already played the American release last year. Uh, Same goes for last week. We saw Chrono Trigger released on iOS, which is also one of my favorite RPGs, and I bought it, but I haven't finished it yet. But so technically a 2011 release. But um, I've already talked in the last part on games I've been playing on my favorite RPGs of 2011.